Welcome to episode 13 of the Poker Face podcast. Whack-a-mole.
In Whack-a-Mole, we're reintroduced to Beatrix Hasp of the Five Families as she takes Charlie hostage to help her root out a mole in her organisation. When various conflicting agendas, rats, moles and snakes result in a tragic loss, Hasp must decide what's important to her. But will her agenda against Charlie cloud her judgment? Or can she be persuaded to do the right thing?
Might I just make a quick pee? I already have pissed myself 5 times today, and yet still a little something left in the tank.
Good evening, Ian. How's the bladder?
Yeah, not too bad. That clip's a bit close to the bone for you, prostate at your age.
At my age. Did I tell you about the time recently when I went for my yearly checkup? The doctor says, come in.
Pulled on the glove?
No, but I was anticipating that, my health anxiety that I sometimes have. Yeah, so I rocked up, brought my own Vaseline and said to her, I assume that you'll be doing this and that. And she looked at me and went, no, don't be silly. I thought, okay then.
This is a Wendy's.
Yes. Episode 3, we're moving along at a fair pace.
13 overall, unlucky for some.
Hopefully not us.
Well, let's hope not.
Did you enjoy this episode?
I did.
It had a different, I think we can definitely see the change in tone in season 2.
Oh, it's complete. I mean, I've obviously seen more than you have of the season, but there's a completely different approach, I think. It's fair to say and safe to say without spoiling anything.
Okay. Also, I like being proven correct, or certainly having my observations acknowledged. Last week, I went on at length about how stinky and smelly Charlie must be, and she herself notes that this week, so that's good to see.
Yeah. I wonder if it's method acting, if she's been commented on the set.
I wouldn't have thought so. I'm sure she's very cleanly. I'm sure cleanliness is a priority with her.
I'm not making allegations. I'm just
insinuations.
It's a technique that some people adopt. Daniel Day-Lewis famously got a shot in the head when he was playing Lincoln.
Make himself. See, that always annoys me as well. There's people. So the Hollywood PR will put things out, and one of my irritants is when they say things like, and I think actually Daniel Day-Lewis, he did a movie with the boxer, I think it was, back in the day. But you see it quite a lot, and they say things like, oh, he trained for 6 months with a professional boxing coach, and he'd have been good enough to be a contender at world level. It's like, no, don't talk absolute. No, he's not.
The thing that annoys me is when they say, oh, on set they never broke character, even when they were in their character. Like, that tells me that you're a prick.
Yeah. Okay, I'll bleep that.
Okay.
Or maybe I won't, because we've got a few curse words in this episode. But again, we always follow the tone of the show, so I think we can get away with it.
We do. And if your mind is also in the gutter, you can find us on social media, the cesspit of human civilization, at Columbo Podcast. We're on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, all those ones, Facebook, that sort of thing. And
Snapchat?
No. Again, no. We were for a couple of weeks, but
too many dubious pictures were getting sent through, I believe.
Unsolicited,
oh,
yes.
Really?
Anyway, YouTube is where you can find next week's podcast already at the Columbo Podcast Productions channel. Please like, subscribe, and hit the wee reminder bell there, because it helps us out greatly. Leave your reviews at the usual places: Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There's quite a lot of reviews on Spotify now, and all that sort of thing.
Prostate okay?
Of course.
Let's crack on.
We get a very brief 1 year ago flashback to remind new viewers, or tell new viewers, who Beatrix is, but Charlie cuts it off by saying, I was there. I was on this call that you're reminding me of, which I thought was quite a nice device.
Unusually, we get an early appearance from Charlie.
Well, I've got a note on this later on that they flipped the format slightly.
We saw that a few times with Columbo, maybe Undercover. He was there at the wedding.
Undercover doesn't count, does it?
Not really, no.
The less said about Undercover, the better.
Yeah, anyway. We're at a roadside store. We get a quick flashback to Charlie receiving the call from Beatrix Hasp at the end of last season. We see her this time. I don't think we had this scene previously. We see her on the other side of the call. She's on speakerphone with the 5 families and telling Charlie that things are bad. Not good.
We possibly saw it from Charlie's perspective the last time around. We should say we're immediately picking up from the final scene of last week's episode, where Charlie was ambushed in her car by Hasp with her weapon. The
gun is at her head, and Charlie drives, considering the recent events at Finch's, and is not in a mood to cover old ground with Beatrix.
A little bit impatient, you might say, for someone who's being held at gunpoint.
But you need to remember what we saw. She just survived
seconds
the
ago, she
skin of her
literally,
teeth.
and she's just walked away from a man who's burning to death in
Yeah.
a funeral home.
Yeah, so either her adrenaline is still pumping or it is crashed and she's like beyond the stage of sort of caring about these things. What will be, I suppose.
Yeah, she's barely engaging with Beatrix here. Although Hasp is not particularly interested in Charlie's concerns.
No, her empire is apparently ruined. She's on the run and doesn't care about her millennial moaning about being shot at by goons.
No.
It's a very millennial thing that.
Yeah.
Doesn't like being shot at by goons. Back in the day.
Generation X, they were the guys who loved getting shot at by goons. She blames Charlie for the collapse of her organisation.
Yes.
And says that she owes her as a result, and she needs her skills to fish out any rat or mole that may exist in her group of remaining capos.
So she's on the run from the other syndicates, the other families, and the FBI. But she has a plane waiting for her at a small private airport or airstrip to get her out of the country.
However, she's not willing to make her move to leave without knowing if she's being set up.
Now, Charlie is obviously not ecstatic about this demand, but has no choice, and is then told to pull over so that Hasp can, I think, go to use the bathroom and get some snacks.
You need to start this episode off paying attention and stay paying attention through it because it plays fast and loose with chronology.
Does it?
We see multiple scenes from multiple perspectives and we don't see them in the order you might expect. So what happens now is we see Charlie handcuffed to the steering wheel of her own car.
This is the point she says, can I use the bathroom myself because I effing stink?
Yes, she does.
And Hasp tells her she can do what she wants, although it's evident that she can't. And watching as Hasp talks to a man in a suit inside the gas station store.
Yes, and we see Charlie kind of trying to free herself sort of feebly, I suppose, and she has to abort that effort anyway as Beatrix returns and hands her the key to the cuffs.
Yeah, so that she can drive.
Yes.
And she notices that Hasp has apparently stolen a can of, what was that?
It's shrimp-flavoured Vienna sausage. I think we would call it Frankfurter, or maybe just hot dog over here. I don't think we use the phrase Vienna sausage.
And interestingly, Charlie admits to doing a bit of pilfering in her youth. So, yeah. Is that surprising?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, Charlie is told by Hasp that you can make anything disappear in loose sleeves, and she pulls a handwritten note out of the can.
Yeah, under the lid.
It tells her that the safe house is no longer safe, and she tells Charlie to go left, which is the direction they've just come from.
But not only that, sorry, on the back of this note, it reads Gem of the Ocean. We don't know what that means at this point.
Yes, and there's a number of seconds that pass before we find out.
Yeah, Gem of the Ocean is a motel that she and her crew are using, and as they approach the room, Hasp lets her know why she is there.
I told my crew you're a cobbler.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, I guess you can't really skip town. You got a holes in your shoes.
No, a scratcher, a forger. Someone who makes fake documents. That way it won't seem strange when you ask nosy questions.
Hey.
What?
Nothing. All right. Well, your shoelace is untied, and I guess I can't figure out which way to play it. Like, don't tell you and then wait for you to trip and then grab your gun, or I do tell you, so you look, and then I grab your gun. Well, I guess it doesn't matter either way, because you probably wouldn't believe me.
Life's full of moments, and you're right, I won't believe you. Get going.
Okay.
Damn it.
All right, so what happens when we catch this rat in question?
Or mole. It could be mole.
All right, well, when I identify this critter in question, then what are you going to do?
I'm going to slowly skin them alive and watch them eat their own flesh in front of me.
I can't be a part of facilitating that.
Turning rat is the lowest, most despicable thing a person can do. And if that doesn't ease your conscience, try to remember it's them or you. Get in. Come on.
There are a few times in this episode that I'm put in mind of Play It Again, Sam from Quantum Leap. Just the old school jargon and patter that they use.
There is a lot of very highly crafted lines in this episode that have clearly had a lot of thought and inspiration put into them. I appreciated a lot of it. I've got a number of quotes written down, including animal-related ones that we'll get to later on.
I'm sure we will.
We enter the motel room now, and there's some tense music playing as they go in.
But they are met by the very jovial Jeffrey, who is ironing food and starts singing to his wife Beatrix. What does he sing?
It's a show tune.
Yeah.
We can cover these later on.
Will we? Okay. He is apparently not part of the crew and claims to know nothing about her scrap metal business.
Of course, he's just playing along. I mean, I think he doesn't really get involved, but he knows what's happening.
Yes, he says he does know about it's all mafia stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beatrix gives Charlie her instructions. She's to be subtle and speak to the men who are in the next room.
Have we got to skip over the sandwich that's offered and Charlie and him sharing a common belief that artichokes are the lobsters of
The lobster of vegetables. What does that even mean?
I don't know. But as you say, yes. She's told to be subtle and go in and speak to the crew.
And when she does, she finds 3 men around a 4-seater table playing a bit of poker.
Should be good at this in Poker Face. That was how she got her start.
I think that's possibly why they're playing poker, I guess.
However, she decides not to go for the subtle and drawn-out option. She simply asks, "Are you a rat?"
Are any of you working for the feds? They all say no. And she says, well, we're done here.
Yeah.
Gets up and leaves.
Walks back out and tells Hasp the good news. She is rat-free unless Geoffrey is working for the feds. He also denies it.
Yes, and Charlie, without even a flinch, says that everything is fine and she should be able to leave now.
At this point, however, the 3 of them burst out and are initially not happy about the apparent accusation, but Hasp tells them to calm down as Charlie has declared them clean and they will be leaving for the plane in 10 minutes.
They seem to understand that it's a safe or a smart precaution to take to make sure there's no rats around before they try and make their escape.
However, this is not the cue for Charlie to leave. She, apparently, could be lying about the rat lying, and so Hasp insists in bringing her along.
Much to her chagrin.
So a deflated Charlie asks to go to the toilet, as we heard in the intro clip, but is informed that the window is too small to escape, if that's what she's thinking about.
How does she know? She just got there with Charlie.
Is that the first time?
Well, she has only just been given the name of the motel, but unless it's one that she's used in the past, but it wouldn't make sense to use one that you've used in the past.
No. Yeah, that's a good... Yes. Yeah.
Unless she's clocked on her way past what are the size of the windows in these things. And
yeah, maybe. Or just making the point, I know what you might be thinking, don't try it.
Yeah. We do get the impression from Charlie's sort of physical reaction that she was perhaps considering this.
Yeah, or at least now the idea has been put in her mind and the possibility has been removed in the same instance. Anyway, as she goes, Geoffrey has a bit of a mini meltdown over the turmoil that he finds himself in.
Yeah, he's trying to cook baklava in a toaster. I think the whole idea is he is discomforted, maybe the right word, by...
Is that a real word?
Discomfited? I don't know if that means the same thing. Anyway, he's not happy about the fact that his life is being disrupted by being on the run.
However, Hasp assures him that it will soon be all over and it will just be them in paradise.
We then fast forward a little bit, at least 10 minutes, to the airstrip.
Yes, we're at this small airport and accompanied by an Old West score.
Well, I thought it was an Old West version of Charlie's theme. That's what it sounded like to me.
All right, okay, yeah, quite possibly, yeah. We get some nice shots of this airport and see Charlie and the crew hide behind a car, anxious about making a move for the nearby plane in the hangar. And we then get that sort of gunslinger shot up from between Charlie's boots.
Yes.
And she uses a walkie-talkie to tell Hasp what?
She says that everything is clear. She can see the pilot on the plane and let's go.
Yeah, for them to go.
Yes.
She thinks her job's done. Can she get out of there?
Exactly.
But Hasp tells her to go first into the plane in case it's an ambush. And when she does, she is in for a bit of a shock.
Well, not if she's seen Airplane.
No, it's a blow-up doll is sitting in the pilot's seat.
She's also a bit displeased by the pre-9/11 BS of a curtain separating the cockpit from the rest of the plane.
Yes. But she's got bigger things to worry about because at this point, the feds appear in numerous trucks with lights and sirens blazing and guns raised. Geoffrey panics.
I liked his nope.
Yeah, he tries to escape by waddling away when his wife suggests they have to shoot their way out.
He's heading for the plane, I think. But
I don't know what he's doing. I think he's just panicking.
As he goes, we see Charlie's friend Luca, the FBI agent, step out and gun him down. After a warning, of course.
Yeah, and I think we see Hasp. She tries to shoot, but her gun jams.
Fortunate.
Yes.
Charlie's quite surprised that Luca has shot Geoffrey. We don't know why.
And an enraged Hasp then picks up his weapon and executes him Well, I think what she does at first is she throws her gun that's jammed at his head, and that knocks Luca.
But just before that, we see the FBI chief tell his men not to shoot her because they need her alive.
Yeah.
However, despite the fact they can see her running and not shoot at her, she's still able to sneak up on Luca. Didn't make sense to me. Anyway, she comes up behind Luca, throws her gun at his head, which causes him to drop his own. She picks up and shoots him in the head from point blank range.
Oof.
Bye-bye, Luca.
So again, watching this for the first time, you're thinking to yourself, okay, last week or the previous weeks we've got these comedy goon clowns.
Yeah.
And now we're getting a very blatant assassination.
It's quite a shift.
Yeah.
It's closer to what we saw in the first season.
Yeah.
With the very serious and dark undertones. We do see blood spatter on the ground from this. It's not just... And then also Jeffrey has blood pooling around him as well.
She then turns to Charlie, cowering in the cockpit of the plane. She pulls back the curtain and blames her for killing Jeffrey before raising her gun. And from outside, we don't see it, but we hear the shot ring out.
2 shots.
2
as we cut to black and head back in time a little bit to an FBI group meeting.
Where Luca listens with the other feds as their boss. I think this is a Hooper or Hopper?
Don Hooper.
Is it Hooper or Hopper?
Hooper.
Okay. Hooper talks in front of the Hasp family tree, which he describes as having been pruned like Agent Prescott's Japanese maple.
He is forced to change his metaphor by Prescott's over-enthusiasm for the foliage.
What does he change it to?
He says that her organisation is stage 4 terminal and it's their job to sign the DNR.
As we see a picture of Jeffrey cooking on this whiteboard with a note that says he's not really part of it.
Yes. Luca is given credit for having a tier 1 source inside the organisation.
And at this point, Clark himself stands and talks about the operation that he will lead.
Luca!
Thank you, sir. According to my source, Hasp and her crew are on their way to a safe house. We have it staked out and we'll take them with the tactical team when they arrive and apprehend them before they flee the country. I'll be running point on the operation.
How did you flip Tony ice cream? I tried to once. I do not have the special Luca touch, I guess.
I can neither confirm nor deny the identity of my informant. I haven't even told Hooper who it is. Protocol, you know.
That is smart. People say rules are meant to be broken, but a lot of those people are in federal prison. Or tremendously successful in their field.
You know me. No shortcuts.
I know. Hey, by the way, if you need me for anything on this, I've got your back. Old friend.
Me too.
Here's to us. Who's like us?
Damn few.
You went for the damn.
I said damn.
I said darn.
I'm vulgar.
I'll see you, dude.
The reason for that ominous music there.
Okay, so before you give the reason for the ominous music, rewind a little bit. So we should pick up on the fact that Daniel, which is the other agent there, was trying to find out who Lucas' source is.
Yes.
He does that more than once in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious right from the start that he's a wrong'un.
Yes. We have seen him before, but we probably didn't recognise him.
Yeah, that's who Hasp is talking to, yes, of course. Now, yeah, the reason for this ominous music is the lingering shot of Agent Clyde Otis.
Yes, he downs his pint of milk before looking out the window at Luca as he walks.
So it's making it very clear that he's a baddie.
Yes.
Also, I mean,
he does twirl his moustache as well.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you have to be gay, but there was homoerotic undertones there.
Who has to be gay? Everyone.
Everyone has. No one has to be. But them singing a musical at each other. I thought, maybe they're partners. And
my brother and I do that fairly regularly.
Yeah, and you're a couple of oddballs. Anyway, we'll move on from that.
At the gas station, and this is another chronology thing. Well, in fact, it's probably not because it's subsequent to what we've just seen, but it takes us back to the scene we've just mentioned in the gas station. So we now see...
Yeah, it's immediately confirmed that he is a baddie.
Yes. We see how this scene was brilliant because it's also unnecessary. He writes this note and hides it in the Vienna sausage and then tells her what it says.
Yes. It was brilliant, yeah. They're both blatantly just talking to each other in public.
Out in the open, yes.
Yeah, with CCTV cameras and people walking by, Charlie in the car. Yeah.
She's unhappy with him for having failed to uncover the mole in her organisation.
However, he's arranged the alternative motel due to the safe house being compromised. And we also find out that she's been paying him as a mole for a number of years.
Yes, he's upset that she's not happy with him given all the information provided, and she feels that was a transactional relationship.
Yeah. Also, I don't think he doesn't appreciate the threat of. She insinuates she could expose him.
He's also curious about who Charlie is because he sees her in the car and is told that due to his incompetence, she needs a backup plan.
She also has a go at his tough guy act.
Yes, and he does another immediately from the previous scene, looking through the window at the person walking away.
Yeah,
he does the exact same thing.
It's a great
again.
Performance. It's sort of this dead. He's playing it serious, you know.
Yeah, for a guy who's been criticised for comically bad acting in the past,
has he?
A reasonably good performance.
Okay.
At the safe house now, we see the failed FBI operation.
We've got an FBI truck outside the place.
It's not an FBI truck, is it? It's a cleaning company truck.
Yeah, owned by the FBI.
Okay, fair enough. You're being very technical.
Yeah, containing Hooper, Clyde Otis, and Clark himself as they start to realise that Hasp will not be showing up. Hooper demands to know what is happening from Clark, but all he can respond with is that his source must have given him duff info.
Yeah. Danny pushes him to reveal his source, and I think...
Yeah, this is after Hooper's left.
Yes. And a couple of times he guesses at who it might be by naming someone from inside the organisation.
Beans, yeah.
And although people won't tell him, his phone rings and it says Hasp source with a picture of a rat.
Yes. Which he leaves to take this call. Some of these little comedic touches were fantastic. Anyway, we immediately cut and find out who the rat is. We're in a car park or car lot. Clark is sitting in his car and is then joined by an agitated
Jeffrey, which is a shock to us because we saw Charlie clear him.
Yes.
Which means Charlie knew he was the source, which means that's why she was surprised he got shot.
Yes. But he insists that he did not warn Hasp about the raid. He wants to get back as the crew will get suspicious and also his phyllo dough will thaw.
Yes. This scene was one of my favourites of the series so far. There's so many aspects to it. So you've got Jeffrey, who is brilliant in the whole episode, but you've also then got the added element of the lip reader with Danny in the car facing them.
Right, so Clark warns him that they're running out of time and asks if he thinks Hasp will cooperate. And
this is brilliant.
He sort of responds that, well, maybe, it's unlikely, but there might be a chance. However, we see her real response in a sort of flashback.
Well, he says that he gets the feeling she won't go for it, and we see the flashback of her saying she would never, under any circumstances, ever cooperate with the federal government.
Yes. So he then asks if he can go into witness protection on his own, as Hasp puts her work ahead of him. But Clark smiles as he explains that they can't justify the cost without her involvement, as he knows nothing about the boring mafia stuff.
Yes, but then he reels off some terminology which Luca manages to pick up on and realise that there's an FBI mole who is feeding them information.
Yes, well, Jeffrey plays dumb again, and Clark takes out some pictures of agents. We see him stare at the picture of Clyde Otis, and this causes a flashback for him in their home as Hasp gives the agent information about a judge who could be bought off due to medical expenses, so he obviously knows who it is.
Yeah.
And so he confirms that he can ID the mole, and a terrified Clyde Otis goes for his gun in anticipation of being exposed. So,
so it's his intention here to shoot the lip reader?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
However, Jeffrey is not as dumb as he looks.
No, that's harsh. He refuses to do so until Hasp is in custody and he is in witness protection. But he does reveal the plan involving the private plane for that day.
Yes, and he also explains he needs to leave because Beatrix is bringing him dessert.
What type?
A cobbler.
Is he that naive, do you think?
Well, we're not sure. Okay. And it's never really clear, I don't think.
So Clark has to quickly put in place a plan to keep his cover. What does that involve?
Well, they plan a fake death at the airstrip, but it strikes me as unusual that he would have this squib shirt in Jeffrey's size with him.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yes, very conveniently, he produces a sort of Hawaiian type shirt that fits.
Yeah.
So why would that be in his... Because he didn't know he would have to put in place a fake death at this point.
He didn't.
No, I think maybe that's another piece of comedy. The absurdness.
It's over the top. Jeffrey understands this plan. The blanks are going to be fired. He's going to deploy the squibs and go down. And Luca warns him not to overdo it, as he's seen plenty of fake deaths ruined by bad death acting.
However, Jeffrey, I think, is quite offended by this. He says, I'm a good actor. I've got a lot of experience in community theatre, and I think there's references to...
Sondheim, yes. They break into a bit of Merrily We Roll Along, I think, and...
he assures him he won't overdo the death scene.
Danny is upset about this because the lip reader mangles the song.
That was great.
And it tells him to shut the F up.
We're back in the motel, and Hasp is complimenting Jeffrey in this new shirt before Charlie exits the room to announce her crew is rat-free. So this went back again to what we've previously saw.
This is where Jeffrey learns what the cobbler is, and Hasp explains to him who Charlie is and what her power is. Mm-hmm. He's not very excited about this, but when she exonerates him, we see him mouth thank you to her.
We go to the bathroom with Charlie this time. And anyway, in this instance, we see what she got up to.
Agent Clark.
Hey, so Beatrix Hasp kidnapped me because she wanted me to find her rap, which I did, but I lied about it because I didn't want anybody to get hurt, but now we're headed to a plane, so...
Charlie, wait, you're with Hasp right now? And you know who her rat is?
Yeah, I gotta say, seems like a pretty nice guy, you know, and a very talented Iron Chef, actually. I mean, not in that kind of way, but...
I know. I'm running point on the case. Wow, you are really good at my job. All right. You did the right thing by keeping quiet. I'm going to get you both out, but you have to trust me.
Okay, great. So, you got a plan?
When you get to the plane, there's going to be a raid. I want you to hide in the cockpit and lock the door.
That doesn't sound like much of a fucking plan.
Wait there until I come get you. Don't trust anyone but me, okay? Charlie, not even other agents. I just learned there's a civilian hostage with Hasp. She's a friend of mine, actually, probably in thrifted clothes. Genial, inquisitive, voice like a rusty clarinet. So please, do not engage until I give the verbal go-ahead.
You heard him, folks. No itchy trigger fingers. I want the hostage unharmed, and I want Hasp and her men alive. At least until they can spill all their deepest and darkest secrets. Okay, everybody into position. Prescott, what the fuck are you doing?
I think it's an invasive species, sir.
That's really interesting. Move out!
Clark is taking a bit of a punt there, telling Charlie to hide in the cockpit. There was no way he could guarantee or assume that she'd be allowed to do that. I would have thought that Hasp actually would want to have used her as a human shield, kept her close by.
Potentially, yeah. I did enjoy his description of Charlie.
Yes. So at the airport, we have a slow-mo replay of the shooting of Jeffrey.
Shortly before that, we saw Luca check his gun and said it still had blanks in it.
Yes. With Hooper and the other agents wondering what is going on. Clyde Otis assures Hooper that Clark has everything under control moments before Hasp shoots him in the head at point-blank range.
Yeah, there's quite a strong reaction from the other FBI guys to that. And then we see Beatrix realise after trying to shoot Charlie that there's blanks in the gun.
Yeah, so we see how Charlie survived because she does pull the trigger. She is about to murder Charlie as far as she's concerned.
But can't.
But now is firing blanks. And so the pair have a fight in the plane as we see Clark come round, as it was his gun that Hasp used to shoot him, as we remember.
Indeed.
However, she then produces her own gun.
Which jammed earlier and is now okay.
Yeah, but obviously now is put two and two together and wonders why a Fed would have a gun full of blanks.
Outside before that, Hooper, I liked he noted that he would not have guessed it was Jeffrey.
Yeah, so on the tarmac, things have taken a turn.
Yes, Luca heads towards Jeffrey, praising him for his wonderful death acting.
Only to discover why it looks so genuine.
He's dead.
Yeah. And with a quick skip back, we see that when Clark took the call from Charlie, Clyde Otis placed at least one, maybe several rounds of real ammunition into the magazine.
Can't have been more than two, otherwise Luca would be dead. Back in the present, we see him kind of smirking.
Yeah, well, Clark is struggling to explain his plan to Hooper and assures him that he checked 3 times that there were in fact blanks in his firearm.
Yeah, we think Luca's maybe in a bit of shock here.
Yeah.
Because this is not what he thought was going to happen.
And not only that, he didn't get all the information before he was iced.
Yes, he doesn't know who the mole is.
Prescott, that's him with the Japanese plant obsession, then tells them that Hasp is on the phone with demands, and the wonderful Hooper doesn't care that the petulant little ding-dong is not certified in hostage negotiations and tells him to stall her.
Luca offers to do it, but he's been benched due to his mess up earlier on.
And so Hooper instead sends Clyde Otis.
Ooh.
So Hasp takes the call on the walkie-talkie, as he claims all he wants is for no one to be hurt, which Charlie immediately picks up as BS.
Hasp demands to speak to her ungrateful rat bastard husband,
who she knows is alive, as she has worked out the blank situation.
Danny, however, explains exactly what has happened, and Charlie verifies that Jeffrey must indeed be dead.
And so after fighting back some tears,
very momentary distress,
she composes herself and says, "Oh, boo-hoo, Jeffrey's dead." She wants a real pilot now.
She wants to exchange the identity of her FBI mole for the things that she needs.
Clyde Otis agrees, but Charlie again calls BS.
Yes, but it takes Hooper now to control the conversation and give guarantees that Charlie verifies again are legitimate.
Yeah, Hooper literally tells her to say more about that. With regards to the mole.
Well, no, Clyde Otis says that, yes, because he's pushed by Hooper to go into it, and then Hooper takes over the conversation to give her the guarantees that she is required.
Yeah, she tells him that she's got had a dirty little mole for years and threatens to divulge his ID, and says that they need to give in to her demands, and if they do, she'll let Charlie go.
And as I say, when Hooper agrees to that, Charlie's able to confirm that he is not bluffing.
Now, as they are talking, we see Charlie slip her phone from her boot.
Is it her phone?
We didn't mention it earlier on.
Yes,
we saw this.
We saw it in the car.
I assumed it was Hasp's. Like, it's quite an old school phone.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe she's using a dumb phone so as not to be tracked or whatever it is. But it appears that it's Charlie's. Maybe she was turning it off.
Maybe.
No, I think it's definitely Charlie's phone.
But she has recovered and now has.
So what does she do?
Well, before she does anything, we see Clyde Otis explain to Hooper that he's strongly opposed to the plan. He wants to avoid Hasp getting away, but Hooper tells him that rooting out an FBI mole is worth more than one gangster, which causes him to reach for the milk. And then with the phone, we see Charlie secretly dial Luca and slide it back into her boot.
As she asks Hasp if her mole is helping her right now. So Clark listens as Charlie tries to get her to give up the rat. And this is great. Describes the guy and the situation at the gas station when Hasp met with Clyde Otis. However, her description is very generic for an FBI agent.
Yes, they're all the same.
Middle-aged, quite tall. Yeah.
Luca makes a big mistake here by not muting his end of the conversation.
Yes, which means that when Prescott gets overly excited about some plant that he has discovered, the screaming from him is heard by Hasp coming from the phone in the boot.
Yes, so she takes this phone and ends the call by stomping on the device after telling Agent F-Face to go F himself.
No.
No? What do you think happened?
Agent F-Face to go blow a dog.
Oh, go blow a dog.
How can you get that wrong? It's quite a...
So it just didn't stick.
All right, okay. And then, as you say, she's stamped on the device and destroyed it. Enraged, she turns her gun on Charlie, who starts to panic and asks her why she thinks she can suddenly trust a Fed who has, I think, sold out his own government for a few $100s.
Yes, at this point, Hasp accidentally opens an ironing board on the plane, which reminds her of Jeffrey and leads her to see the reason in Charlie's argument that only her mole would want him dead. Also, I think she probably starts to figure out what that means for her.
She also makes a point that it's more likely to be the mole who killed Jeffrey. I think this is an argument or position that Hasp accepts.
Outside, Danny again urges Hooper to attack or to board the plane.
Yeah, he proposes that this is exactly what she wants, this situation, and I think Hooper is brilliant. He sarcastically asks if being trapped and surrounded by feds is her grand plan.
However, they don't get to the end of this conversation because they notice Luca doing something bold.
He is making a run and enters the aircraft. Hasp has decided that killing as many feds as possible is her only option, and she's going to start with Clark, who has just appeared in front of her.
I think your mole killed Jeffrey to keep his identity secret, And I think he's gonna find a way to silence you too, unless he tell me his name so I can stop him.
You want me to rat on my mole like a snake? No.
I want to help you get out of this.
Why?
Because I failed your husband. It was my job to protect him, and I screwed it up.
Wait, Luca, did you kill Jeffrey on purpose?
No. Jeffrey loved you, Beatrix, very much, but he knew you'd always choose your work over him, and he chose to put his own needs first for once. Call that what you want. I call it brave.
Okay, so that's true. Come on, Beatrix.
Beatrix, time and do the right thing. Davas who the mole is. Jesus Christ, you red-headed alley cat. Who even are you?
All right. Fuck it. I'll tell you who my mole is. The mole's name is Maverick McTitticuddy.
Is she serious?
Well, she's not lying, but I do think that maybe he gave you a fake name.
Well, I don't know. Typical white guy.
We're all typical white guys. We have some serious flaws with our hiring process.
Milk. He, at the gas station, he was drinking milk. I mean, who even drinks milk anymore?
Most mammals.
Maverick is always bitching and moaning about his ulcer.
Danny? No, that's not. No, he's my friend. I've known him since the academy.
Whoa. Who's Danny?
Daniel Clydotis. It's hyphenated.
What? That sounds even more made up than Maverick McTitticuddy.
That was brilliant.
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Clark obviously works out how and when Clyde Otis made the switch with the blanks, and they all realise that he is a weasel and a snake and a mole.
Yeah. Well, we should take a moment to appreciate the line that Hasp wants to know whether he wanted her to rat on her mole like a snake at the start of that clip. That was great. Hasp then gets on the walkie-talkie and tells Hooper that the mole is Clive Owen.
Yes. But he actually hears it as Clyde Otis.
Hooper seems to me throughout this episode to be like one step away from going Police Academy.
Yes.
But not quite ever going doing it.
For sure.
However, at this moment, he boards the plane, disarms Hasp, and shoots Luca when he tries to sing their song.
Then orders him to lie face down. But as he walks forward, Charlie is about to try the shoelace trick, as we heard it in, I think, the first clip. But when he calls her a tramp, she shuts her mouth and watches as he trips up. And after a bit of a fight, Charlie picks up Clark's gun and shoots the cupboard, which again opens, this time landing on Clyde Otis's head, allowing Clark to win the battle.
Which of these guns work and which ones don't?
I don't know.
I lost track at some point during the whole plane incident thing.
Yeah. A bit like in the first episode where the twins were fighting and fell off the...
Yeah, which one was which and so on, yeah. Anyway, outside we see Charlie vaping as Danny offers her first 16,000.
Then we should say as well, we see the inflatable pilot being removed as if
yes, as if it's a victim.
Yeah.
First 16,000 and then
this is great, yeah.
22,000 to say that Luca was the mole.
I think he says, yeah, I'll put it in an offshore account. She's like, I don't even have an onshore account. And when she tells him this, he desperately jumps to 125,000, a negotiation that she doesn't appreciate. He's like, you're a bad man.
If he had that much, then he shouldn't have started at 16.
She leaves him arguing that, he's not a bad person, just someone who's done bad things, and walks over to Hasp with Clark telling her that as she revealed the mole and is testifying against the other families, her protection is now good to go. Providing what?
That she lifts the hit on Charlie, which is appreciated by Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, Hasp seems a bit disappointed, but has to agree. And as you say, Charlie thanks Clark for this, although he tells her that if she get whacked, it would be a blow to his career. Yeah.
Charlie at this point sympathises with Beatrix about the loss of Jeffrey, and then as Hasp indicates she might make a fresh start, Charlie realises that she also has the same opportunity. Yes,
for the first time in a number of years, she's free. She has nothing to run from. She can do what she wants. And so a little bit later, we see her get into the Barracuda, and I think it seems that she's a bit of a loose end, doesn't know what to do now, where to go.
No, she pulls out a map of the East Coast and points her random finger at Florida.
We have the credits rolling at this point, but it's not quite over.
No.
It's almost a meta scene.
Coming up this season.
Yeah.
So We should say that when the season, in case folk aren't watching it contemporaneously, when this season was first released, these first 3 episodes came out together initially.
Yeah.
So that is why we now have Charlie introducing a montage of events to come.
Yeah, we see her in different situations trying to work out who she is and what she's going to do with these numerous clips from... Now, again, you've watched it, I've not, so I wasn't sure if this was fake.
No, these are real
clips from real episodes.
I've not seen all of them, but a number of them are from the next few episodes. Yeah.
I didn't look into it, but I did take a note. Did I see for a brief second there Jason Ritter?
Well, I've not seen him yet, but I believe
a man who we've
possible.
discussed in great detail, and it would be interesting if he made an appearance.
He certainly would. I mean, he was at the premiere.
Okay, spoiler.
I'll get to the music that was playing at this point.
Can I just say, with reference to Matlock, what we discussed as well is, okay, so for anyone who's not watched it, Matlock finished, I'm not saying on a downer, but it didn't resolve all the questions and the arcs of the show.
Yeah.
And I suggested at the time, I don't think we could have another sort of 22 episodes to tie that up. What often happens is you get the first couple of episodes of the new season, which concludes the previous arc, and then starts something fresh, and that's what they've done here.
That's what
it looks like.
The next thing I've got written down to ask is, how do you feel about them wrapping up the On the Run arc at this stage? And do you think that was always the plan, or do you think they maybe pivoted to that when they realised we can't keep this going for a whole
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's... I would have thought it probably was the plan. I'm not sure if they're doing it by the seat, if they're an ad hoc.
Yeah.
Planning.
It could be something that they've left open deliberately at the end of first season, and they've thought, well, how are we going to deal with this in season 2? Let's tie this up and move on.
Obviously, they didn't tie it up in season 1, so the new season 2 must be on the cards.
Well, it didn't have to be, but yes. And then they could have taken it through season 2, but they've probably decided at that point not to, rather than...
I think it's a great decision, because the last thing you want is people to get bored of. People want a storyline to come to an end at some point. They want that resolution.
Yeah, and I think the show... And again, I don't want to get into spoilers, but I think Charlie's situation in season 1 and so far in season 2, and I think also in the next few episodes, the situation that Charlie is in is reflected in the tone and the feel of the show. So when she's feeling like she is under threat, under pressure, you feel that ominous sort of dark undertone, and when she feels like she's not, that is again reflected in what we see.
It's obviously going to open up many different opportunities and avenues for the Charlie and for the show to get down, which she couldn't do if she was
and I think just as you wouldn't expect Charlie to immediately work out what she wants to do, we also, I think, and again, no spoilers, are going to see that the show maybe doesn't quite know exactly what it wants to do next.
Again, referring back to Matlock, I got there's a podcast out there if you want to listen to
this podcast, just rewind a few episodes.
Okay. There is a character who's got similar abilities, the meerkat, Shay, in Matlock, who can detect when people are lying or not. Maybe not quite as powerfully as Charlie.
Hers is more studied than instinctive.
But we did say that would be a fantastic job, a career for Charlie. I mean, you could do
jury consultant.
You could do it remotely, not even a jury consultant, but if you are a part of the law enforcement, either a defence or prosecution lawyer, or a detective, even if it's not admissible in court, it can save you a lot of time and get down wrong alleys if you can simply get a person to say, "Did you do it? Yes or no?" Right, okay, we now know who we should focus on and try and find out. And you can make how much money would she make from that? She could be in an island somewhere, she could go anywhere, she could travel, work remotely, and spend a few hours a week. Next.
She surely could.
Yeah, anyhow.
Do you think Jeffrey got what he deserved for being a rat?
No. I think Jeffrey has found himself in a situation that he can't really control, doesn't want to be part of. Although he is, I suppose, living off the proceeds of crime.
Yep.
But no, he seemed quite an amiable chap, a nice guy.
And we already mentioned the other point that I was going to make, which is the flip of the format with Charlie in at the start, and then we go back to the other part of the story afterwards, which I thought was quite nicely done.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts before we go into bits and pieces and trivia and stuff?
No, let's go into the bits and pieces.
Okay, so the director this week was a newcomer to the show, a guy called Miguel Arteta.
Is he not the Arsenal manager?
No, that's somebody else, Arteta.
Okay.
He's worked on things like Succession, The Morning Show, American Horror Story, and in a throwback to last week, Homicide, Life on the Streets. His film, Chuck and Buck, was nominated at the...
What?
His film, Chuck and Buck, was nominated at the Sundance Film Festival in 2000. The writer of this one was Wyatt Kane, who you talked about last season. He wrote The Stall and Time of the Monkey, two of the ones that we liked quite a lot. And then we had reprised roles from Simon Helberg and Rhea Perlman as Luca Clark and Beatrix Hasp, again covered last season in some detail. Jeffrey was played by Richard Kint. I've spent all week mixing him up with Stephen Root, who we saw in Quantum Leap, and is not the same person at all. He's best known to me, Richard is, for his role in Spin City, and he's been in things like Inside Out, Argo, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Big Mouth, Mad About You, and Stargate. When he got married, his best man was George Clooney. He's a familiar face to most people for something. He's got over 300 screen acting credits to his name.
No offence to him, but that's your day, isn't it? You want to be the most handsome man and the most charismatic man for that day. And George is standing beside you. Come on, you're showing me up here.
Maybe dressed badly or something, just to dial it down. Agent Danny Clyde Otis was played by John Mulaney. He's an Emmy Award winner as a writer. He's a long-term, or has been a long-term contributor to Saturday Night Live. He's written for Seth Meyers and for the Golden Globe ceremony. As an actor, he's been in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Did you see that? It was the animated one with...
I think so, yeah.
He's the Spider-Ham, the pig one.
Okay.
He's been in Big Mouth, and he had an ill-fated sitcom called Mulaney. Oh. His current wife is the actor Olivia Munn.
His current wife?
He had a previous wife.
Right.
And his great-grandfather was the mayor of Salem, Massachusetts, albeit some 250 years after the witch trials.
He was very good.
As a mayor.
That's what I've heard.
Don Hooper, your favourite in this episode, was played by Chris Bauer. He's known for his recurring roles on The Wire and True Blood, but he's also appeared in things like the most recent Marvel Cinematic Universe movie Thunderbolts, Universe, is that a word? Parks and Rec, High Fidelity, Face Off, as well as appearing on Broadway.
Parks and Rec is brilliant.
I've not seen it.
Oh, you should watch it.
Yeah, good.
Fantastic.
At least part of this episode was filmed on Staten Island. Clyde Otis, worth a mention, the surname of John Mulaney's character, is a Grammy Award-winning songwriter and record producer, chiefly known for his work with Brooke Benton. Episode title, Whack-A-Mole. It's a fairground game, obviously. Blunt instrument, as we sometimes see. And I think the wordplay in the title is also a bit of a blunt instrument in terms of being whacked and being a mole.
Yeah,
all this stuff. Music for this episode. So we see Jeffrey singing Hello Little Girl from Sondheim's Into the Woods when Beatrix arrives at the motel.
You couldn't have that title anymore, could you? It'd be creepy.
Into the Woods.
Hello Little Girl.
Oh, yeah, there's a few songs like that from that period.
Oh yeah, many.
There are a few Sondheim references scattered through the episode. Luca and Danny's song Old Friends is from Merrily We Roll Along, as I mentioned. And we see Jeffrey and Luca in the parking lot singing a song from Assassins. Of course, Sondheim himself was seen with Natasha Lyonne in Rian Johnson's second Knives Out movie. We also heard Burgers and Fries by Charlie Pride, and the outro was Barracuda by John Cale, where both the name and the car match Charlie. In terms of who did crimes this week, at least we saw Danny causing Jeffrey's death, and Hasp shooting Luca, kidnapping Charlie, and shoplifting. In the situation where Hasp thinks she's got a live gun and pulls the trigger, is that attempted murder? Yes, I would say so. I mean, so that's after, there's a deal there, you've enveloped that up as well. We'll forget about the attempted murder. Yeah, all of this is worth getting the mole out. Okay. In terms of whether they will get away with it, I don't think Danny is going to get away with it. Hasp will, because she's gone into witness protection. Mm-hmm. I agree. Any other thoughts this week? None whatsoever. Next time, we've got Charlie getting to grips with a gator and a celebrity cop in The Taste of Human Blood. Until then, cheerio. Bye-bye.